Hey, Jason. Our main presenter has called in sick, and you're the only one available, so you're gonna have to do this segment.
What? Me? Why not Jerry?
Don't argue with me on this, please. The boss is not too pleased with me as it is.
Well, I guess we better get started. Video games are one of the many outlets for people's creativity, a statement of modern pop culture. Not only have video games provided entertainment for millions of people across the globe, they've told stories, created puzzles, built communities. They've got the people talking by interactively allowing the audience to be involved in the story, mystery, competition, etc. Yet video games have also gotten people talking for the potential hazards they contain, the money and in-game purchases involved with these games, and their effects upon a person's character through either addiction or changes in behaviour. So, what have these video games done that is positive? Have video games done anything except be a source of procrastination? Is there any impact from video games that has positively or negatively affected the community, human health, or societal change? Find out how. We need to find a place where gaming is its most exposure, and there's one place where this is most prominent: YouTube. Yes, we are daring to go there. Despite the constant law of clickbait titling, YouTube is fantastic for sharing videos on practically any number of topics. Gaming is probably one of the most popular and most broad. YouTube channels and YouTubers have been built simply by them playing video games, gaining millions of subscribers because people like their content. Some of these YouTubers just play the games for simply playing their games, improving their skills, surpassing through intense moments. Then there's some YouTubers that play the games to solve a mystery, create theories, and get the audience to take part in solving the mystery. The best example I can come up with would have to be the game theorists, since they do exactly that. Play the games, post videos trying to solve these mysteries within those games, and get the audience involved by solving up forums on Reddit and other media outlets. These games have built communities around them. By contrast, this ability video games have in inviting the audience's participation can be quite addictive, and keep people playing, affecting how the player goes out and experiences the real world. Today we managed to set up an interview with a self-described high school gamer who wishes to remain anonymous, and we'll be referring to him as Smith. Couldn't we just get a 12-year-old Fortnite kid?
The boss prearranged this time slot, just go ask him.
Hello?
Hello, Smith. Thank you for giving your time to talk to us.
Hello?
Smith, can you hear me? This is Jason Rowe calling for the interview.
Hello?
I do apologise for these technical issues, but I think we've got it now. Smith, can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Thank you for taking the time to talk to us, Smith. Can you describe to us how high school is travelling for you?
Thanks for having me. Yes, well, the best way to describe how things are going is that it's fine. I try my best at school, my grades are fine, I've got great friends, I have no real enemies, I like my teachers, everything's just fine.
I see. You've also described yourself as a gamer. Why are you a gamer? What led you down that path?
Well, probably the biggest reason would have to be just to break away from it all, and escape, if you will. Usually after school I'd start to play some video games, not that school is bad, but sometimes I need to get the confusing events that happened that day out of my head. Like today, for example, I learnt the formulas and proofs behind why functions have n-1 turning points. I accidentally turned a piece of zinc black after spilling copper sulfate, and watched a friend of mine, Billy, run into a pole with a box in his head.
Okay. Why don't you choose other methods like, dare I say, alcohol, or even illicit substances?
Simple. 1. They're illegal, especially for someone in high school. 2. I know of multiple people who have used these substances and they are now unrecognizable when compared to who they were before. And 3. My dad will drop me on my head if I ever tried anything like that.
Fair enough. What draws you to keep playing these games?
It's the world I see and create within these games that keeps bringing me back. I can be part of a world and be free to be who I am when I play those games. Someone who I know will never truly be accepted, not because of the law, but because that's just the way the world works. Hence, I'm currently playing a game now, but I've got it on pause during this interview.
I see. Wait, it's 7:30 PM. When does school finish for you?
About 3.
When did you start playing that game?
About 4.
So, you've been playing for nearly 3.5 hours?
I guess so?
Do you not have any homework or an assignment that needs to be done?
Not really. I'm set for most of my classes. Wait. Oh crap, I've got an English assignment due in 3 days. Oh jeez, I gotta go.
Wait, no, don't. Looks like he wasn't fine. Now, what you just saw isn't a scene out of Steven Spielberg's Ready Player One.
You were last seen entering your trailer. 3 days ago. You haven't left since.
One. This is the psychological effect computer games have on people, the addictive side of the gaming coin. This example is a growing trend of younger people becoming increasingly involved and forgetting about the real world outside the game, with some mainstream media outlets jumping on this trend and following it to its most drastic conclusion. Yet, by simply doing a quick Google search, there are hundreds of reports, conducted psychological experiments, and professional opinions that gaming can be beneficial to education and cognitive function. Research professor of Boston College, Peter Gray, as if we couldn't get enough of middle-aged white men, posted a report on Psychology Today outlining numerous experiments conducted highlighting how gamers improve their visual contrast sensitivity, spatial attention, and the ability to track moving objects whilst distracted when compared to non-gamers. Other benefits were also mentioned, like overcoming dyslexia and reversing mental decline. He believes that the bulk of the research suggests that the claims about negative effects of video games are largely myths, and the positive effects are real. Despite his professional opinion, the research done needs to be taken with a grain of salt, for if we select another article, and if I select the right one... Wait, what? Howie! The research needs to be taken with a grain of salt, for if we look at this article has been sponsored by Bethesda for their new game, Prey. AAA game developers have, and still do, pay researchers to conduct experiments to provide scientific basis as to why people should play their games. As if Coca-Cola and their payers wasn't bad enough. And much of this funding is earned through in-game purchases. Most big gaming titles such as PUBG, CSGO, Call of Duty, and countless other minor titles all incorporate a loot box, raid, supply drop, case opening system. This revolves around the player purchasing cases, and sometimes the keys to open them, with either in-game currency or directly from the ever-depleting hard-earned savings within your bank account. Once the purchase has been made, the player is shown a range of items that can potentially be received from the crate, with different crates offering a player different rewards. These items are often worth varying prices depending upon their rarity, with most common being worth the least and least common being worth the most. There are other systems involved within this, but the case opening systems are by no means any different to gambling, except that what you're winning isn't real. It's just a bunch of ones and zeros thrown together to make it look so goddamn beautiful that some players are willing to risk thousands of dollars trying to win some of these items, not realizing the real life consequences if they lose. And it's not just the money. Let me introduce you to a gamer formerly known as McSkillet. As to why he chose that name, I have no idea. Anyway, McSkillet was known for his videos on him buying and opening cases on CSGO, when his videos received between 150,000 to 4 million views on a single video. For years, he threw thousands and thousands of dollars into the case opening cycle and betting his items, or skins as they're called, on gambling websites, splashing out his profits to purchase a 2014 Mercedes-Benz McLaren 650S. Come July 13, 2016, Valve, the developers of CSGO, released a statement saying they have no business relationships with any of these gaming sites, and using an OpenID API and making the same web calls as Steam uses to run a gambling business not allowed by our API nor our user agreements. McSkillet co-operated one of those gambling sites, and the site was shut down in the aftermath of the policy change. It doesn't get much better. In June of this year, McSkillet's CSGO account for which he gambled and made his money on was trade banned. This effectively meant that any items he owned were now unsellable, leaving him at a loss of potentially $100,000 US. Ever since that point and several months prior, his presence on YouTube and CSGO dwindled. He began pushing people away, according to an anonymous friend, allegedly dealing with depression. And on August 23rd, 2018, McSkillet was killed in a high-speed collision driving his McLaren over 100 miles an hour on the opposite side of a road into oncoming traffic, killing a mother and child in the process. The in-game purchases got him hooked. His life was built upon the foundation of gambling, and those foundations gave way. But gaming can also be about more than just the reward, fame, or fortune. It can send a message, an argument, a belief, a need for change, social change. As I mentioned earlier, video games are great for getting the audience to take part in the story happening before them, to become the character in the story. And there are some game developers who want to use that hands-on experience to bring about that change. There are two games that try to do this, and I know of these two since I don't spend enough time outdoors. The first is called Riot Civil Unrest, released on the 7th of December 2017 and developed by a former Valve developer, Leonard Menchiari. The game, in an 8-bit art style, depicts the riots and civil unrest that occurred throughout the 21st century. Set in occasions as varied as London, Ukraine, Rome, Paris, and retelling the story of Indignados, the Arab Spring, Karatia, and Notav. The player is given the opportunity to explore both sides of the conflict, the desperation of the protesters and the dwindling nerve of the riot police. The developer himself was caught up in no tov, and he developed the game believing that there really are no winners, leaving the audience to decide who is right and who is wrong. The second game is called Escape from Warmer. Now, if you're an aspiring traveller, you'll know that Warmer is a small town situated in the middle of practically Whoop Whoop in South Australia. Throughout the Cold War, particularly in the 50s and 60s, Warmer was used as a base for nuclear testing by the British, with the town allegedly still being used by the ADF for some reason. I say this since when I visited the town, there were only 2 other people in a town built to support several thousand, even having a regularly watered AFL level. What Warmer is known and confirmed to be used for recently is asylum seeker detention, hence the game Escape from Warmer. In this game, the player assumes the role of an Iranian refugee whose application for asylum has been denied. Knowing that he will be killed if he's sent back to Iran, his only option now is to escape. The developers built this game to offer the world a glimpse of life within the most secretive and controversial places on the Australian political and geographical landscape. They implement the systems and policies used in real life as game mechanics the player must work with to bring about their eventual escape. When was it released? Well, that's the problem. It never fully was. And it wasn't because the developers got lazy. The game was funded by the Australia Council. It was meant to be released in 2003 or 2004. It was shut down after criticisms made by the former Minister of Immigration, Philip Ruddock, believing the Australia Council should lend this name to the promotion of unlawful behaviour. If that's not ironic, I don't know what is. Thankfully, the developers did keep working at the title, and a prototype of the game is available for download at their website. These 2 games aim to bring about social change by immersing the player in the story. So, what has changed? Sadly, the only social change brought about by video games is due to the game's impact on real life, not by how real life is interpreted within the games. Remember Smith, who I interviewed earlier? Well, this example, by some doctors and psychologists, would be considered a mild case of Internet Addiction Disorder, or IAD. This is a disorder that is often questioned for its legitimacy. However, some countries have taken steps to prevent further ramifications of growing cases of IAD. China was the first country to formally recognize this addiction to the internet as a clinical disorder. They have enacted policies preventing the gaming time to be longer than 3 hours a day, and those who play online games require registration. Totally unrelated to, the fundamental communist political system, but anyway. South Korea has also instituted policies for allegedly 2 million people out of 50 million people are classified as being addicted to the internet. They've instituted the Cinderella Act, preventing users under the age of 16 getting access to the online gaming between midnight and 6 a.m. They've also built a world-first Internet Addiction Prevention Center and developed a system of 140 counseling centers across 100 hospitals throughout the country. These changes have come to be made because some people took the video games too far. For them, it became more than just a game, and as an ever-increasing element of modern society, gaming and access to gaming needs to be guided, not censored. There's one more factor that needs to be considered, and that's the human element. People are always the unknown variable when it comes to the topics of controversy, and gaming is no exception to this. And sometimes it's the people who push the games too far. Now, I should take this opportunity to state that viewer discretion is advised and the following content may disturb some viewers. 26th of August 2018. Electronic Arts is sponsoring a game tournament in Jacksonville, United States. Madden 19 is what the fuss is all about, with prizes up for grabs for the best players on the day. David Katz, a regular gamer, is favoured for winning the tournament, for he won a similar tournament the previous year. What happened next, however, was an episode of senseless violence. Do keep in mind the exact details are still hazy since investigations are ongoing. However, certain elements need to be stated. Katz was knocked out of the tournament and was allegedly made fun of after this occurred. This, allegedly, was enough to motivate him to leave the building, grab a gun, return to the tournament, and open fire upon the event. As I say, investigations are ongoing, so there is a great possibility that other factors could have weighed in on this. However, he still killed 2 people, further injuring 11 more, and after a short standoff with police, he turned the gun on himself. For some of those who were injured, and some of those who were present, it was their first tournament, and some of them didn't even know who he was. What's sad is that violence due to video games isn't unprecedented, and the saddest part of all is that in America, at least, it's not likely anything will change. America is just too in love with the Second Amendment, and the president is too busy picking on China and trying to figure out how many bricks he wants to be laid on the Mexican border to act. Video games will always be fun, and that's a good thing. Some of the funniest moments of my life were playing video games with my friends. But there's a line that needs to be maintained to ensure the fantasy of the gaming world and life in the real world can be distinguished. For if we let that line become blurred, and gaming goes far enough to become more important than real life, what's the point of living a life that's real? Hello?
Hi, Jason. Sorry for leaving you like that. Do you need to ask any more questions?
No, thank you. We've got what we needed.
Well, in that case,
I guess there's no need to remain in the shadows then.